Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Thursday, July 2nd. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Ball State game in 65 days, the game against Michigan in 149 days. Our show today is sponsored by Jeff Ruby's of Columbus, proudly offering nationally acclaimed USDA prime steaks, seafood and sushi, impeccable service, live entertainment, and an attention to detail that is simply unmatched. Just go to jeffruby.com/Columbus to check out the menu and make a reservation today. Now, sharp-eared and sharp-eyed viewers and listeners may notice this will be the second Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Thursday, July 2nd. Had a show ready to go already. That is on Ross Bjork talking about the House settlement, how it's divided up between Ohio State sports, basketball share, whether Ohio State basketball has enough, a whole bunch more stuff. Really interesting show. You guys will love it. That's also a Thursday, July 2nd show. However, we have some breaking news, and this is breaking news that absolutely could not wait. Jett Harrison, five-star wide receiver, number one wide receiver, according to a lot of folks in the 2028 class, has committed to Ohio State. I'm joined by Juck Miletti, Buckeye Insider's recruiting insider. And Juck, no matter how you slice this one, this is a very, very, very big get for Ohio State.
Jett is something special. He's something special. And Tony and I were talking about him not too long ago on a recruiting show we were doing. And I think we were both under the impression that, yeah, he's going to be good. He's Marvin's little brother. He's ranked highly. How good is he really? And then we both had kind of just recently watched him, and we're kind of just shocked to tell each other like what we thought about just how ridiculously good this kid was. His catch radius, his route running. Marvin Sr. talked about him today, talked about his competitiveness, maybe the difference maker. He's just kind of got it all. At 6'2", 175, his catch radius is as big as his older brother, who's a little bit bigger. And he's still growing, right? He, just finished his sophomore year. Also a stat stuffer. 15 touchdowns last year, including 4 in the biggest game of the year against St. Francis, an incredible opponent with great DBs. 10 touchdowns as a freshman when he was much smaller, playing good football in Philadelphia St. Joe's Prep. It's a good league. They play, they play IMG sometimes. Like, they play a really tough schedule. And Jett just steals the show. St. Thomas Aquinas, they played last year. So going against Jaden Carey, Buckeyes commit here in the class of 2027. But just a shocker. Nobody expected this at all. This was not something that was scheduled or anything anybody knew anything about.
And, it's interesting. You were talking about a bunch of stuff there, which is just a lot of boxes that can be checked. You never know when you get a receiver out of high school. Like, I go back to Julian Fleming, for example, who was the number one wide receiver in the class, but played in an offense where they really didn't throw the ball. So it was a lot of projection and a lot of camp. And it was just kind of like, well, how is it going to translate to the college level? And he turned into a good college receiver, but probably didn't live up to the billing of that number one wide receiver in the class. Jett Harrison kind of checks some of those boxes for you where, we talk about this with guys like Brock Boyd, where you're playing a big school, Texas high school football schedule. So you're playing really good college level competition somewhat regularly. Now, Eastern Pennsylvania, Philadelphia is not exactly Texas, but when you're playing a really a national schedule, as St. Joe's does, that kind of checks some of those boxes. And then also, when your dad is an NFL Hall of Fame wide receiver, known for his work ethic and his excellent work and attention to detail and all that kind of stuff, and your older brother is a current top 5 NFL draft pick, wide receiver in the NFL, All-American at Ohio State, superstar, known for his incredible work ethic. It just feels like there's always some uncertainty with guys coming out of high school. But man, this feels like one where it just checks an awful lot of boxes.
You're right, Tom. It feels like the floor is ridiculously high when we talk about Jett, who is Rivals' number one overall player in the country at this point in the cycle. And yeah, all those boxes checked. In addition to that, when we look at the guys that Ohio State's bringing in, we've kind of seen a shift, as you bring up the Julian Fleming thing, to production over traits. If you can get them both, that's great. But production, you look at Blake Wong, who they just lost to BYU, same way. 1,700-yard, 20 touchdown kid. Jaquaden Guilford last year was a stat stuffer in Indiana. They're definitely leaning towards the production model as what they want coming in. And Jett is going to have a ridiculous junior and senior year if the freshman or sophomore ones are any indication. But you love to hear the work ethic. You love also that it looked like at one point this might go well into the recruiting season, and he might be one of these guys we were having a huge DGG style conversation about, because he went and visited Oregon and Miami. What do they have in common? We all know the deal. When you bring those two guys into it, it looks like trouble. It looks like we're dealing with a big time money style recruitment, and not the case. He wanted to shut it down. Said he saw everywhere he needed to see, and there he went to the places he thought could develop NFL wide receivers, picked Ohio State, and that's it. And I don't think there's going to be any more buzz or similar to the Chris Henry Jr. or Jeremiah Smith recruitments where it gets down to the final 6 months and there's fake stories here or there, or maybe slightly real but embellished to make it look like he's a potential flip target. It just feels like this is going to be a seamless, easy breezy one for the Buckeyes. And thank goodness, essentially, Jett grew up as a Buckeye fan, right? From the time Marvin committed, he was probably 12 years old. So he was as invested in Ohio State's success, watching his brother go through the program, as any one of us fans. And that is pretty cool, man. Jett's a Buckeye.
Yeah, yes, he is. And now he sort of continues a streak of 5-star wide receivers that Ohio State has in a number of classes. 2025, they got Quincy Porter, who is no longer at Ohio State, but 2024, they got Jeremiah Smith. 2026, they got Chris Henry Jr. 2027, they've got Jameer Brown. Now, 2028, you got Jett Harrison. 2029, you got Austin Miller. I know there was a lot of concern when Brian Hartline left. Is wide receiver recruiting going to fall off the edge of the map? Or the fact that this year, 2027, very clearly they're spending a lot more of their resources in terms of developing the trenches. So, okay, is that going to hurt the wide receiver recruiting at Ohio State? And this is not perfect forever for the foreseeable future, but it sure seems like maybe the fan base can take a little bit of a exhale at this point on the recruiting at the wide receiver position, where it's at least going to be pretty good for the next few years.
The power of the Block O is pretty ridiculous at this point in time. When we talk about the Ohio State wide receiver room, Austin Miller, the number one wide receiver, I think, when they haven't even ranked this class yet, but I think he'll be the number one when they debut the rankings, potentially the number one overall. This is a guy who had Ohio State in his top 3 schools before he'd ever even talked to Ohio State. I mean, it's just, that is the poll, even without Hartline, to guys about Ohio State. And Jett Harrison, obviously having that in was great. It's just like when we look at Cortez Hankton, if these two commitments stick, in 1 week's time, he will have doubled his number of 5-star commitments than he had in the past 8 years at LSU and Georgia, 2 very powerful programs. Ohio State's just different when it comes to wide receivers.
So now the question is, who is going to be throwing him the ball, Jett Harrison, in that class of 2028? Right now, there's still some lingering question about who the quarterback for 2027 is going to be. That's still a little bit up in the air. We will have a show one way or the other on that when that decision gets made. But Ohio State, we were at all those camps back in June for a couple weeks where they brought in just a ton. It was just a parade of top 10 quarterbacks nationally. And it feels like Ohio State is in on a lot of really intriguing names on that class, too.
Yeah, when we look at that class, we're looking at Donald Tabrone out of Cass Tech up in Michigan. Boy, he was excellent. Chris Vargas and Ty Snell. These are all the top guys. And it seems pretty clear that no matter what happens with Brady Edmonds, whether he sticks with Ohio State, flips to UCLA, which we'll probably find out here in the next week what he's going to do here. I don't think Ohio State's going to end up with, if he ends up flipping, another top guy in this class. It'll probably be another guy like a Luke Fahey, quality quarterback, but similarly rated. But this class of 2028, I think, is when they go all in to get one of these top dogs. One of those 3 guys, any one of them would certainly fit the bill. As we saw them all, they're the real deal. But they're definitely going to take the big swing here. But, Brady at the time was a big swing as well. Things change. I think what we're seeing is, and this is something Ryan Day lamented, was how early you were having to get those quarterbacks in the class. And Brady, he was actually earlier than most of them, the first of the top 20 rated quarterbacks in that class to commit. But it feels like these guys are waiting a little bit longer for this cycle, 27 and 28, to commit. And that's a great thing for Ryan Day and for the quarterback evaluators, that they don't have to get in on it so early with those offers and accept commitments from guys when, they're not sure how they're going to end up.
So there you go. Ohio State adds a 5-star wide receiver for 2028. Number 1 wide receiver in the nation, Jett Harrison. Ohio State has had a 5-star wide receiver in 2023. Brandon Inniss, 2024. Jeremiah Smith, 2025. Quincy Porter, 2026. Just brought in Chris Henry Jr., 2027. Got Jameer Brown on the hook, 2028. Jett Harrison, now 2029. Austin Miller. That is a pretty good run at the wide receiver position for Ohio State. We'll see what the 2030 class brings. It is coming sooner than you think. The season coming sooner than you think. The BuckeyeInsiders.com site coming sooner than you think. We are talking a matter of days right now. If you have not signed up for updates, go to BuckeyeInsiders.com right now. Enter your email address. We'll send you the email with an update on our timetable to launch, an update on who exactly is working for the site, an update on sort of what you can expect from the site when it launches, and much more. So go ahead to BuckeyeInsiders.com and sign up for that right now. You can also check us out at YouTube at youtube.com/@BuckeyeInsiders. Make sure you're subscribed there because, boy, we've got breaking news coming all the time, and there may be more commitments coming relatively soon for the Buckeyes. We'll have breaking news shows on those for you as well. And finally, make sure you check out all of our podcasts, the Buckeyes TomOrrow Morning podcast, the Buckeye Weekly podcast, and the Time and Change Will Surely show with Juck and Tony. Those are all 3 shows you're going to want to check out. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating and review. That will help you as well. And thanks again to our friends at Jeff Ruby's Steakhouse, the award-winning upscale steakhouse in downtown Columbus, named one of the top 50 steakhouses in America by Food Network. Just go to jeffruby.com/Columbus to check out the menu and make a reservation today. That will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.